Knowledge is power, they say, but a lot of people seem to underestimate the power of reading because they do not get instant gratification from what they have read. In the 80s, 90s, as well as the early 20s, a lot of people could brag about reading 100 books, 150 books, and still comprehend the messages of those books. Is that the case today? If I should ask you, how many books are you able to read and still comprehend the messages of those books? What would you say? Well, that forms the basis of our discussion today on the Weather Zone, as we've scoured the world to bring you the most fascinating as well as the weirdest things about reading. This is the Weather Zone, and I am Bixby, the voice of Niger Delta. Welcome to VFlex TV. In just a little bit, we'll be unveiling the face of the Weather Zone today. Stay tuned. It's your boy Bixby, voice of Niger. Welcome to the Weather Zone.
You know, when I'm 8 was the first time I was actually acting as a young teenager, as a child. Okay, all them crushes like that. Sometimes you'll be too good for the job, but you don't get the job because you don't fall into the production.
I'm putting the so something for you. Please teach us how about you join us every Wednesday for an unforgettable journey to the Weather Zone, where the unexpected is always around the corner. Welcome back. Today we're going to be switching tables right now. We're not going to be introducing the guest today. He's going to be doing the introduction himself. So let's have him do his introduction. Hello, David. How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
To have you on the Weather Zone. We're so impressed. We're so pleased to have you today here. And please just tell us more about yourself and audience. You can just speak to this.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is David Okocha. I'm an entrepreneur and transformational speaker. I help to depollute the minds of young people from societal-induced negative beliefs, make them see reasons to be happy and become first-class citizens of the world. I do this by writing, by speaking, by teaching.
Wow, he does that by writing, reading, and teaching. You see reasons why I didn't want to introduce him, because I just want him to do the whole introduction. Perhaps I might just miss one of his lines, but here he is. He did justice to everything. All right, David, thank you so much. And I appreciate the fact that you're an avid reader and you write a lot. So would you tell us what's the weirdest thing about reading? Because for you to be an avid reader, you must have passed through so many weirdest things about reading. Are there weird things you would like to share for us today?
Well, reading is indeed fun, but funnily, the weird things I see people do around on reading, I see a lot of people read, and when we talk about books, some people will tell you, I've read this book, I've read that book, but what I expect as a person is to see the transformation that particular book has done to you. Because I believe that the essence of knowledge is to affect your life by transforming your actions or inaction. It affects your life by transforming your actions or inaction. I think knowledge should reveal to you what you should start doing or what you should stop doing. But I see people, they read books, it doesn't show in them by their action or inaction. So if you receive a certain knowledge and you don't act upon it, it often reduces you to the level of those who are ignorant of what you have received or what you know. So one of the weird things I see is when you see people say they've read certain books and you expect to see their lives being transformed through that book, and it is not. So it's weird to me, because if you read a book, I'm supposed to see the result of that book which you have read. And it's funny also, some weird things I've seen people do while reading. I think that maybe when we're in school and all of that, people try to, you see them dip their legs in water just to be able to stay awake. Some get gums or whatever they chew.
Did the dipping of lead in water.
So how do you see it? Do they work for you?
Yeah, at some point it worked
Okay.
because whenever I feel sleepy, I just dip my leg there and I wouldn't feel sleepy anymore. I'll be awake and I'll start reading, and I think it's just going to work for some period of time. If you do that for quite a long time, you might lose your focus the focus on reading.
Okay.
Rather, your attention will be on your foot on the water.
Okay.
So I have a limited time putting my feet in the water and reading.
Okay.
So that works for me.
Okay.
Within a limited time. Okay. So I don't know for others. Okay. Have you tried it before?
I've tried it a couple of times. Okay. So those are some of the things people do. I find them weird, just as a way to keep awake and all of that. So I think reading generally is a nice thing to do, and you do it a step at a time. You don't expect to be a master at something when you're just starting.
So let me quickly ask you, do you take reading as a hobby, or you just read for reading's sake? You just want to do the traditional reading like it's always been? They will ask you, read, or your parents will ask you to read, teachers will ask you to read, everybody will ask you to read. Do you just read because you were asked to read, or do you take it as a hobby or something? Okay,
right now reading is a hobby, but before I could say that I started reading out of duress. I think those years our parents or guardians will always force us to read, and I could share with you, I think while growing up, so we were usually expected to read from 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. before going to bed, and when there is no power, we switch on the generator and till 11:30 p.m. So I found out, so my guardians then, they always go out in the night, and when they come back with suya. So if you are awake at the time they come back, you'll be able to enjoy the suya. Yes. So sometimes some of us, it's not really because we were reading, but we are interested in the suya. So it makes us stay awake so that we can have suya at the end of the day. Yeah. So that was one of the things that made us stay awake. But as I grew, I began to see the beauty of reading. I began to enjoy reading for myself. And as I started staying on my own, I decided to find out the best time for me to read. Not longer.
Yes. During that time you were being asked to read, and anybody that stays away gets suya, do you people really get value from what you read? Do you really understand, or are there ways you comprehend those things you've read? Because that is reading under let me use your word, duress, all for incentives. Okay. You have incentives. Yes. So do you really understand what you read? I mean, what's the outcome of your reading?
Yes. Later I began to understand. Okay. Like what I usually do then, I think I was in secondary school or thereabout, was that I take that time to work on my assignments and all of that. So any other time left, in secondary school in Nigeria, we have comprehension passages. So I take my time to study some of the comprehension passages. Some of them I understand, some I don't understand. But I just, but I found out that even if I was reading it to learn or not, I know that I learn new words, new vocabularies, and they have helped me as a person in speaking and also in writing. So in reading, even if you're not paying attention, there are new things you come across. So you must get value in reading. Either you come across new words or your life is transformed. One of them.
Thank you. Either you get transformed or you get your value through reading. Yeah. Well, there is this weird thing about me I want to share with you now, that I read randomly.
Okay.
Right? So whenever I'm on the road, I pick books. Any books I see, I just pick them and read. I see inscription on cars, I pick them and read. Inscriptions on clothes, all of that, I read them, and I think it works for me. I had value from reading randomly. One of which I'm going to cite here is whilst I was in JSS 3, then I wasn't taught what literature was.
Okay.
I never knew what literature was. So I picked this book on the floor and then I read it. The first writings there was literature is referred to as the mirror of life.
Okay.
And then I had that. That stung to my memory. I don't know if I should call it a coincidence or something. My JSS3 exams, the BCE exams that happened, the first question in English language was, what is literature in English?
Yes, yes.
And the mirror of life happens to be one of the options for that question. You can see how happy I was. Like, I answered those questions and I was really excited. And that helps me till today. I read anything. I can just walk into a building like this and you see me looking everywhere just to check if there are anything I can read from there. It sends a message to me. But there are times that whenever you pick books to read on the road, people feel like, okay, this person is insane or something. What would you say about that?
Well, reading is important. You know how to read. Why not read?
Okay.
So I think it helps us. It guides us. It guides us in everything. If you don't read, for instance, you may see a place like they do in Nigeria. Do not urinate here. If you don't read, you may go and urinate there, and you put yourself in trouble. So, and like they say, ignorance is not an excuse. So it's important. Like you just talked about your experience in literature, in knowing what literature is. I think even when we read, we have nothing to lose, honestly, in reading. Sometimes we may not get everything that is said in the said material we are reading, but we'll get something, either a new word or something. We must just grab something from that reading. So it makes sense. If you can read, why not read?
So far, what's your favorite book?
Okay, the Holy Bible. Yes.
For Muslims, they read the Quran.
Okay.
Holy Bible.
Okay.
I never saw that coming actually. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you again.
Okay.
What is in this era of this digital era now? We have ebooks.
Yeah.
Ebooks have gained significant popularity.
Yes.
And would you like to share? Have you been reading ebooks? Let me begin with that.
Yes. I read ebooks. I read ebooks. Yes.
Okay, so what's the weirdest book you've ever read? Weirdest ebook you've ever come across? That differs from the traditional. Let's just put it this way. That differs from the traditional reading habits.
Okay. Well, there are a couple of them. Can I remember? Maybe Who Moved My Cheese or something? Who Moved My Cheese?
Sounds interesting.
Yes, Who Moved My Cheese?
I'm not judging it.
Okay.
No, but I feel like it sounds interesting.
Okay. Yes.
That's a book you've read.
Yes.
Okay.
And
you also made mention of something. Are you a writer?
yes.
Because I know every people who read. Some people who read, avid readers, they write a lot.
Okay.
Do you write?
Yes, I do write. I do write. Yes.
So you're an author.
Yes, I can say that.
Wow. All right. So far, when did you start writing books? Let me do that.
Well, I started writing a long time ago, but I really took it serious to write and publish a book online during COVID-19. That's 2019, 2020, and I had to think of a book that really addresses some of the things I see in the society that I think we can do better. Okay, so and I always say that I like that a lot of people need a paradigm shift, especially the young ones.
Okay.
And so this has been in my mind since 2016, 2017, but I honestly took it serious 2019.
You have a book right now.
Yes.
What's it called again?
It's called Paradigm Shift.
Paradigm Shift.
Yes, and it's called Paradigm Shift: Pragmatic Approach to a Change of Thought and Action for Path-Breaking Success. So that is the title of the book, and I shared my thoughts and how I think people can be better in different areas of life.
So a lot of people get distracted when they go to check for a word in the dictionary, and they realize that there are other words that they need to get, that they need to know. That word caught their spot, and they go check for that word and abandon these books they're supposed to read. What would you say about that? Is it wise for us to, just since we're talking about grammar, we need to check out our grammars, and you're checking a particular word in the dictionary and then you found another word.
Okay.
You've abandoned this book you're reading, and now you're going for the word.
Okay.
Check. What would you say about that?
Okay. Well, I think focus is everything.
All right.
If your focus is to read this book and understand, I think you'll be focused on achieving that. Okay. If a new word is what you're looking for, go for the new word. Like I usually do, then I use pencil to write a word that I better understand on top of the new word,
Alright.
or just by the new word, so that when I'm reading, I replace with that word. I also used to have a book I call vocabulary notebook. I write down the new word I have learned, and I try to memorize it and use it in sentences. So that was one of the ways that helped me build my vocabulary. So, but I think if you're focused, if your goal is to study the book and understand, when you open your dictionary, you check that word only and write it. So I forget being distracted. Except that is not your goal. You're just reading at random. Then you can choose to check word and focus on other word. But if you give yourself a deadline, I want to read this book, I want to finish it, I think focus is needed.
Focus is needed.
Yeah.
All right. I talked about random reading, and I
Okay.
read on the road.
Okay.
I want to ask you: are there benefits of weird reading habits? Are there benefits that one stands to gain when he reads? When he has these weird reading habits?
Okay. Well, there may be benefits.
Okay.
There may be
because
benefits.
I
Yeah.
just intentionally asked
Yes,
you
yes.
because I benefited.
Yes.
For the
Yes.
random, my random
Yes.
weird ways of reading.
Yes.
That's reading randomly.
Yes, yeah.
I benefited from that. So I'm asking you: are there the benefits?
Yeah, there may be benefit. You learn something new, just
Okay.
that you didn't plan. Like you talked about learning about what literature was, which
Yes.
later helped you. So it's a benefit. So if you just pick, you can just see something and read, and you learn something new. And sometimes it's those things you did not learn consciously that sticks.
To you.
Yes. You just came across a word somewhere. You may just memorize it, and somewhere you come across it, and you just. I've had to write some couple of exams or something, and words that some questions I saw there are things I did not consciously learn. I just came across it somehow, and I was able to answer it, and it just sticked. It just sticked.
So what's the last question?
Okay.
Now? What's your advice to people who tries to develop their weirdest reading habits? What would you advise them to do?
Okay. First, you just need to pick out what I found. At first, I have a time I read. I think everybody should have a time they read, and if you have a time you read, then you pick what to read. You pick what to read, and you give yourself time. So you don't need much. You don't need to read much. You can read a chapter. You can read a chapter of a said book, maybe daily. You can pick an hour to read, 30 minutes to read, whatever you choose to do. Read a chapter of the book, and you do it consistently. Before you know, you begin to read more and more and more.
So I talked about reading randomly.
Yes.
Do I need a time to read? Because
Oh.
I'm a kind of person that whenever I'm in a vehicle, I read.
Okay.
I read inscription for clothes. I read signboards. I read whatever.
Okay.
I just come across that it's readable. I
Okay.
just read them. Do I need time to read at that point in time?
No, since that's what you do it anytime you feel like. You get that? You do it and there was one thing I learned to do if I'm in Lagos State.
Alright.
There's usually traffic.
Okay.
I learned to read ebooks while on traffic.
Wow.
If the ebook is short, sometimes before you get to your destination, you have learned something new. So it's a way of buying time. You just while in the vehicle, you are learning something new instead of paying attention to noise. So I think it helps. No much traffic in Port Harcourt compared to Lagos. So I think those in Lagos can benefit from that.
The traffic at Tabaru.
I said it's not that much compared to Lagos.
All right.
Yes.
All right, David, I'm so impressed to hear from you.
Okay.
But quickly tell us about your book, The Paradigm Shift.
Okay. So paradigm shift, just like the name suggests,
Alright.
it just helps you to change your actions and inactions to money. I think you have to first understand money, and in the book, a part of it, I said that money is the receipt you get for the value you possess. And so if you want to make more money, you must possess value that people will want.
Alright.
to be able to. So I suggested to people, I talk about attitude, relationship, and a whole lot, discovering yourself. So I suggested to the people who read the book the actions or inactions they should take at the end of each chapter. That makes it practical in such a way that you can even add more. So it helps you to learn something and start doing that which you have learned. It reduces you to the level of those that are ignorant of the claimed knowledge you have, the knowledge you claim to have received. Wow, so that is it.
Interesting. Thank you so much, David Okocha.
Yeah.
Look at the name.
Yes, you did.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, he's been able to talk about his book, Paradigm Shift, and what distinguishes these books from other ebooks. There are a lot of ebooks that talks about how to make money, and you just heard from him. He decided what makes it more unique than any other book. So what are you waiting for? Just go grab yourself a copy of the Paradigm Shift. Thank you so much, David Okocha, for being on the Reading Zone today. We really feel happy to have you.
Absolutely. If the knowledge you have does not transform you, it reduces you to the level of which you do not have at all. And that is coming from David Okocha. Talking about knowledge, the book Paradigm Shift by David Okocha is out now on seller.com. You can go grab a copy of that. It's been sold for $2,500. However, Biglex TV is giving its viewers a $500 discount. That is to say, after watching this video, you can actually get the book for $2,000. All you need to do is like this video, comment, share, and subscribe. Send us a screenshot to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and thereafter, we send you a code that you need to be purchasing this book for the price of $2,000. Trust me, you definitely will get value from this book. Not take my word for it. At this juncture, it's me, the person that you know, hanging out on the Reading Zone today. But there is no such thing as being reading habit. So don't be afraid to let your imagination go wild. This is Biglex TV, and I am 60 months of Nigeria.